They may be the flavor backbone of your favorite dishes: rosemary on roasted potatoes, sage in stuffing, oregano on pizza, and thyme tucked into just about every Mediterranean stew. But these classic herbs might soon find themselves at the center of something far more serious than the dinner table. Scientists are increasingly turning their attention to these Mediterranean herbs not just for their taste, but for their therapeutic potential in Alzheimer's disease and cognitive decline. It sounds too good to be true. Herbs you already have in your kitchen as potential agents against the world's most feared neurodegenerative disease. But it's not culinary wishful thinking. A growing body of research shows that rosemary, sage, oregano, and thyme are rich in bioactive compounds that target the core pathological processes of Alzheimer's, namely brain inflammation, oxidative stress, and synaptic dysfunction. Let's start with inflammation, the kind that simmers in the brain for years and slowly eats away at cognition. Chronic neuroinflammation is now considered a driver of Alzheimer's, fueled by overactive microglia, the brain's immune cells, and a constant storm of inflammatory cytokines. What's fascinating is that all four herbs contain compounds that suppress pro-inflammatory pathways. For instance, rosmarinic acid, found in rosemary, oregano, and thyme, has been shown to inhibit inflammatory enzymes like COX-2 and reduce TNF-alpha and IL-6, two major culprits in the neuroinflammatory cascade. Sage adds to this anti-inflammatory chorus with ursolic acid and carnosol, both of which calm immune overactivation in the brain. Now on to oxidative stress, another Alzheimer's villain. The aging brain is a magnet for oxidative damage due to its high oxygen use, rich lipid content, and limited ability to regenerate. Here again, Mediterranean herbs shine. All four are packed with polyphenol and flavonoids that act as potent antioxidants, neutralizing the free radicals that damage DNA, lipids, and proteins in the brain. Rosemary's carnosic acid, sage's luteolin, oregano's thymol and carvacrol, and thyme's eugenol and apigenin all activate internal antioxidant defenses like superoxide dismutase, SOD, and glutathione peroxidase. In other words, they're not just mopping up oxidative mess, they're training your cells to clean better themselves. But what really puts these herbs on the neuroprotective map is their impact on synaptic health, the preservation of communication between neurons, which is the literal infrastructure of memory. One of Alzheimer's most tragic effects is synaptic failure. Neurons may survive for a time, but their ability to talk to each other collapses. Some of the compounds in these herbs actually stimulate neurotrophic factors like BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, helping maintain or even rebuild those vital connections. Sage has shown promise in enhancing acetylcholine levels, a neurotransmitter that drops sharply in Alzheimer's and is essential for learning and memory. Meanwhile, rosemary may reduce acetylcholinesterase activity, effectively increasing acetylcholine availability, similar to some conventional Alzheimer's drugs, but with fewer side effects and more antioxidants. Oregano and thyme, while not as widely studied in human cognition as sage and rosemary, are no less impressive at the cellular level. Oregano's carvacrol has been linked to improved hippocampal function and memory performance in animal models, likely due to its dual antioxidant anti-inflammatory punch. Thyme also shows promise in improving cerebral blood flow, which keeps neurons well-fed with oxygen and nutrients. The result? A cleaner, calmer, and better connected brain network, conditions less favorable for the amyloid plaques and tau tangles that hallmark Alzheimer's. And unlike synthetic drugs that tend to zero in on one mechanism, these herbs are multi-targeted by nature. They don't just block one enzyme or one receptor. They act across several pathways simultaneously, offering a kind of herbal synergy that's hard to mimic in a lab. This might make them particularly useful in a disease as complex as Alzheimer's, where no single off switch has yet been found. Of course, we need to temper the enthusiasm with realism. Most of the strongest data comes from animal models and in vitro studies. Human clinical trials are still relatively scarce, and herbs work best when part of a broader lifestyle that includes healthy diet, exercise, sleep, and social engagement. And no, sprinkling extra thyme on your chicken won't cure dementia. But the idea that these ancient culinary herbs could form the basis of future Alzheimer's therapies isn't fantasy. It's increasingly plausible. They're accessible, affordable, low-risk, and already culturally ingrained in diets known for longevity and brain health, such as the Mediterranean diet, which itself is linked to reduced risk of cognitive decline. So yes, the future of Alzheimer's therapy might just smell a bit like your grandma's kitchen. And that's not a bad place to start. Because in the long fight against brain aging, some of the most powerful weapons may already be growing in our gardens and simmering in our soups, fragrant, flavorful, and surprisingly effective.